You're listening to the Into the Woods podcast with your hosts, Dermot and Michael. Let's get into it.
Wonderful chase by Heath
Cox again. I cannot believe it. Dacos nearly runs out of room. He's goal. Jamie Elliott has won the game of footy for this famous club. Slap for Nick Dacos. He's going to be the hero. The little champ is going to pick the winner.
Here's the Degoe moment. He unloads. Bang! You need your stars. And Collingwood stars just went and wrenched the cup back.
Welcome to the first edition of the Into the Woods panel show. I'm your host Dermot, and for the next hour or so, we'll be talking about all things Collingwood. If you want to join the conversation, be sure to follow our socials. You can find us on X at Into the Woods Pod and on Instagram at Into the Woods Pod 10. Once again, I'm joined by Michael. How are you, Mick?
Yeah, good, thanks. You rang me a couple of hours ago and you said, when I introduce you, don't just say good thanks and leave it at that. You wanted a segue to then talk to the guys, to introduce the guys.
Well, you weren't meant to say that.
No, but you suggest that I say I'm either excited or nervous about tonight, and I'm not really either. So I thought what I'd go with is the name of this. I've come up with a really good name, Pies Panorama.
No, look, we'll just stick with the panel show for now. We don't want a different name. We're Into the Woods. We don't want a completely different name. People won't know what that is.
Well, I think a lot of people know what panorama is. No. It's viewed from a lot of different angles. But anyway, there's your segue. So introduce the guys.
All right, so we'll start off with our first panel member, and he's one of our most loyal listeners. You may know him from the VFL reports on Pies Nation's podcast. Big welcome to Serg.
Hey guys, how are you?
Very, very well. We'll get to know your story as a Pie supporter in a second, but first we'll introduce our next two panelists, and our second one is also a long-time listener. You may see him floating around on YouTube in our comments under the name Grubman. Welcome, Daniel.
G'day, Dermot. It's good to be here.
It's good to have you. I think we might need some ID. How old are you, Grubman?
I knew this had come up. I'm 19. But
19. Wow.
I could get some ID up, but my mate's taken my wallet, and I haven't had it for like 2 weeks now.
Oh, jeez. All right. We might dig into that a little bit later. And earlier today, our third panelist, Joel, he unfortunately pulled out of tonight's ep, but luckily my best mate of nearly 20 years has agreed to join us as his replacement. So welcome, Oscar.
Hey there. Yeah, no, it's good to be on. Wasn't necessarily expected. Kind of said I wanted to see one of these shows first of all, but no, look, hopefully it'll go well. Good to be.
Yeah, well, you're off to a very strong start, so don't be too nervous, mate. You'll be fine. All right, so we'll start off with a few questions just to get to know you guys a little bit. And I think the most obvious one, and we'll start with you, Serg, is how long have you been supporting the Pies, and how did you become a Pie supporter? And while you're at that, what are your earliest memories? Like before the pod started, I heard you talking to Michael about some of the days that you used to go to the reserves before the seniors and so on. So, yeah, give us a little bit of insight about your history as a Collingwood supporter.
Yeah, thanks. I should have said thank you for having me. Isn't that what all the AFL players say? Look, my background, I'm Spanish, born in Germany. My parents migrated in 68, And lo and behold, I rock up to this suburb called Collingwood, go to my backyard, look over the fence. There's the school I've got to go to. And to my left is this building that's got black and white stripes. So I said to a mate who had accompanied us to this house at Collingwood, what is that? And he said, oh, that's the Collingwood football ground. That's the Sharon stand. So that was my earliest recollection of the Collingwood Football Club, and fell in love with those stripes and became a supporter ever since. Became a member, I think, in 1986 when the club was in trouble, and I've been a member since 86. But that was it. The Sharon stand was just one of those fantastic places, a place of worship back in the day. I just loved it, and as I mentioned before, that's probably some of my best memories is going to that ground, as well as going to some of the other grounds in the VFL. But that was one of my earliest recollection, seeing those beautiful black and white stripes, and happy to attend my first game. That was a real buzz.
Yeah, nice. What about you, Daniel? Do you want to give us a bit of an insight into your time as a Collingwood supporter? Obviously, being 19, you won't have those kind of memories that go way back, but it would still be interesting to get a point of view from a younger person and how you fell in love with the club, I guess.
Before I was born, there was an executive decision made by my grandmother that her first grandchild would have to go for Collingwood, and I couldn't be happier with the team I've been picked with. Thank God it's not Carlton, and on my grandma, she unfortunately she passed away in 2023, exactly 2 weeks after the grand final, and it wasn't until after the grand final that she said, "I'm ready to go." So it was a beautiful moment watching the grand final with her.
Perfect timing.
Definitely.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, nice. And what about you, Oscar? Like, obviously, I know your background, being mates with you for so long. That's how we became mates because of Collingwood and that link there.
Yeah.
But yeah, share with the listeners, I guess, how you became a Collingwood supporter and some of your earliest memories.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, none of my immediate family actually go for Collingwood. But when I was about sort of 4 to 5 years old, I spent a fair bit of time in Melbourne for a month or two there. And my pop used to live in Collingwood. So I stayed with him for a while, went down to he worked at Collingwood College, went down with him a couple of times, and one time met Nathan Buckley and Scotty Burns down there. He took me to Vic Park to see training and things like that, and just kind of ended up going for Collingwood from there. So probably, when I was about 4 or 5, I reckon it was. So about 24, 25 years I've gone for the Pies now. And my two brothers both go for Essendon. So I think I lucked out pretty well with the team I ended up with. My dad goes for Geelong, obviously But my two brothers go for Essendon, but I lucked out spending time with Pop that summer and go for the Pies. So that's pretty much that. As far as like a clear I mean, the 2002 grand final kind of, obviously that didn't end well, but probably sticks out as like a first memory I had, really, as far as I can look back. But yeah, that's essentially how I've come around to being a Pies fan. So yeah.
Oh, very nice. So we'll go back to Serg, and well, this goes for all of you, but we'll start with Serg. What are your favourite memories as a Collingwood supporter outside of the premierships?
All right, I'll be quick because there's obviously being the oldest, there's been heaps. So obviously I mentioned the football ground, attending Victoria Park, and really going to games in the 70s and 80s. Watching some of my favourite players like the McKennas, the Pricey, and the Richardson brothers. Guys like I love the Tom Hafey era. That was memorable for us, even though we didn't win a premiership. And things like guys like Renee Kink, Phil Carman. Some of the highlights that I recall, poor Doug Gott in the grand final in '77. they say he cracked a knee. It was probably an ACL back in the day. They didn't know what an ACL was back then, but he got us some time. If it hadn't been for him, we probably wouldn't have drawn. And there was the Phil Manasseh and the Mick McGuan runs consecutively, one in the grand final and one versus the arch enemy, the Blues. So they're my earliest memories. In terms of games outside of, I'll look at the 1972 Collingwood versus Essendon. It was the Queen's birthday. That was, if you ever want to have a look at a game, there was 44,000 packed in Victoria Park, which could only take about 30, 35. So that game stands out. Peter McKenna kicked 13 goals. And it was interesting, and I don't know if you guys know your history, but for a long, long time, there was the banners and floggers that the cheer squads used to have. Well, that game ended that because the Essendon cheer squad ran through our banner, and then we demolished theirs. And then there was a fire at half time with the floggers. We burnt theirs, and then it's quite interesting. But that's as a kid, that stuck clear in my mind. And not long after that, the BFL, as it was back then, banned the use of the floggers. I don't know if you recall, Dermot, you're too young, but Michael will. Yeah, it went from the big floggers, which are sort of back in vogue now, to the little pom-poms. That was, there was the Anzac Day game between Collingwood and Richmond in 77, where Phil Carman and Shane Bond kicked about 7 goals each, and there was 92,000. And as a young kid, that was just unbelievable. Some of my worst moments was back in 72, not long after that famous game where John Greening, one of my heroes, got knocked out at the Moorabbin football ground, and he was a talent. Michael may know, but
Yeah. Did you know?
yeah. I've never forgive. I've got once and killed a mate. I don't talk to him every time we play. I don't forget, but that he could have been anything.
Well,
Yeah.
had we had him, we might have. Who knows what would happen in 77 and 79 when he would have been at his peak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Sorry to butt in, but I know the game you're talking about where they set him on fire. I was too young. I was about 5 then. But I've got a Victoria Park book, and they've got pictures of that game.
Yes. Yeah.
But sorry to interrupt, but Barry Price. I remember in 1979, I was at primary school in West Heidelberg, St. Pius, and Barry Price, because we're in the Collingwood area, he came out to do a footy clinic. Okay, so he was the big name. By that stage, I think he was like captain of the twos. He was past his best, but he's twos. And he's come out with a young guy. And he's taken the clinic. We were all running around, awestruck with Barry Price. 30 years later, a mate of mine, who's still my best mate, George, he said, "Do you remember that day Barry Price came out?" I said, yeah. He said, "Do you remember the young guy that was with him?" I said, I remember there was a young guy, but didn't pay any attention. He said, "That was Peter Dacos." That was Peter. So Peter Dacos taught me to kick. Didn't do a very good job, but Peter Dacos taught me to kick. And today, Barry Price is in charge of the Peter Dacos Academy. So it's funny how things are. Nobody even paid any attention to the young guy. But there you go. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's amazing. Look, I'll let the other guys have a crack, but the only other thing that soured my experience as a Magpie was obviously the Darren Mullane death in 91, I think, from memory. But look, plenty of highlights and plenty of low points. More highlights than low points, but wouldn't give Collingwood away. It's been a great experience,
hasn't it?
Thank you.
Yeah, that was great. Grubman, it's going to be a hard act to follow. That was it was some pretty good stories. But give us your favourite memory from outside of the premierships.
Favorite memory? I'll start with like very, very earliest memory of being a Pie supporter wasn't a game, but it was my grandma going to me and saying, "As a Pie supporter, you can never let a Carlton supporter in your house." And I'm proud to say that I've tried to abide by it, but there's been some sneaky buggers that have snuck through my front door that I haven't been able to avoid, unfortunately.
They're not the
but
ones that took your wallet, are they?
no, they're Hawks supporters, so
Oh.
yeah, not much better.
Oh.
But favorite memory, honestly, I've got to say that game last year of North Melbourne, it where we came back from 52, 56 points, whatever it was, it just showed me as a Pies supporter, we are never truly done. Like, that was just incredible because I remember being at the pub and just going, I need to leave. This is just a shit show. And then going home, turning on the TV and being like, oh my God, I should never have doubted us. And
So
and I hope I
you
never
missed
doubt
it,
us
did you?
again.
Did you
No,
miss it?
I just at halftime I went home to watch it. I was just like, I can't watch this at the pub. I can't be
Okay.
around people. I still watched the whole game, but it just taught me never to doubt the Pies, never doubt the boys.
Mate, I was the same. So that's when Michael and I did the live reaction shows. We don't do that anymore because I'm a little bit unhinged, as Mick would say. And the emotions were just too much after not just that game, but every game that we did the live reaction shows for. And that was the hardest game that I've ever sat through. And I said to Michael, I said, let's do a half, because normally we do before the game and after the game for the live reaction shows. I said, we're going to do one at halftime instead, because I don't think I'm going to be here at the end of the game. I can't watch any more of it. And yeah, that was one of the most loose episodes I think we've ever done. But it kind of made it good. The fact that we did a halftime one where the emotions were high, and then we got to do it after the game when we came back and won. That was, yeah, one of the craziest games I've ever seen as well. So, yeah, very, very nice. Sorry, I'll let you continue.
No, I remember listening to that episode and like hearing the before and just laughing because if I was listening to it live, I would have been right there with you going, holy shit, what have we done? But just knowing like on the other side of it, like we actually didn't. And, Bobby Hill, Lockie Schultz, Nick Dacos, just absolute scenes that game. I mean, they call Bobby Hill the Dazzler for a reason.
Absolutely. All right, Oscar, we'll end with you. Your favorite memory outside of the premierships?
Yeah, well, funny with that North Melbourne game from last year, actually, because that was the day I was flying out to Thailand, and I watched the first half of it in Melbourne Airport, but then we had to board, and I was in a bit of a grumpy mood. I was like, oh yeah, I mean, I was happy about going on holiday, but I was like, this is disastrous game, and then I land in Phuket, and just like connect to the data there locally, and the first thing I see is we've won by like a point, and I just couldn't believe it. But anyway, yeah, that was that. I mean, Chris Tarrant's winning goal against the Crows in maybe 2003 or something. That was pretty epic. I just remember being at like family friends, and I was sort of just watching it up there by myself most of the night. And then about halfway through the fourth quarter, about 10 other people just come into the room and watch the end of that, and that was pretty intense. Luke Bull's goal against the Hawks, 2011 prelim. Loved that moment. Even just like little ones, like I just remember like a massive torpedo goal that Alan Didak kicked against the Blues one day from like 65 out. That was pretty epic as well.
That was in 2010. Yeah, I remember.
2010. Yep, no, that was pretty cool. I'm just trying to think. I mean, that was sort of the three that I had written down that kind of stand out.
Well, that 2003 game, the Chris Tarrant one, that it's funny you say that. I think we did a blast from the past on that game last year. And that last quarter in particular, like I encourage any Collingwood fan to go back and watch that. I think it may even be on YouTube. That is one of the wildest last quarters ever. Like there was Anthony Rocker, Scotty Burns, Shane O'Brien, Ryan Loney. There were so many great goals from Collingwood, but then and then obviously Chris Tarrant, that goes without saying. But then even the Crows, it was such a high score in last quarter. You had Wayne Carey playing for the Crows then, and Marcus Shudo. So many great goals, so many.
Yeah, that actually was a very, very good game.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure it was on Channel 10, and they used to do that 5-minute warning, which used to seem like it went on forever. And I just remember the ticking down, and it was this.
Yeah, well, obviously it was a very, very long quarter considering all those goals.
It was an extremely long quarter, but at a certain point, I was like, it's got to be about to ring the siren, and that was a great game. Even though it was only about 8, I think at that point, 7 or 8, it just kind of stands out a bit that game. So yeah.
Lovely. All right, so we'll finish up with one last question. Well, it's sort of like 2 questions in one. It's just simply, who is your all-time favorite player, but also maybe name an obscure player as well on top of that. So we'll start with you again, Serg.
Can I just say, everyone sort of bitches about the kicking these days. Those 2 games I mentioned, I'll just mention the scores. So the Anzac Day game, the game between Essendon and Collingwood. Collingwood kicked, where have I got that? 23-10, 148. Essendon 13-15, so that wasn't too bad. And then Richmond Collingwood, for John Groening's return, we kicked 21-17 to 9-20. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay, favourite players. Look, it's really tough, guys. This was a really hard question because
you can name a few if you want.
Well, look, no, I'm not going to.
Be strong.
We will be here all night, right? I've split them into the 60s, 70s, 80s, but I can't go past these 4, not in any order, and I'll throw in my other favourite. Look, Peter McKenna for me, but Peter Dacos, Bill Picken, and more recently the great man, the Great Dane, and Dane Swan, and obviously Pendles. They all match up really well against all the players that I've ever seen, and there's been numerous. To Michael's point, I would have loved to have seen what John Groening could have done for us. There's other players like Darren Malone, Stan Magra, all these guys. But I digress. Tony Francis. Okay, I've got a couple of obscure players. I don't know who knows these guys or don't. I settled with. Do you guys remember Dale Woodhall?
I do. I was thinking of Dale Woodhall only the other day because I was watching the Essendon Brisbane game where the young Essendon forward kicked the ball over his head.
Yeah.
Dale Woodhall did that a couple of times for Collingwood at Vic Park.
Yes.
Back
100%. So some of my obscure players, some are probably better known, but Robert Hyde, Gary Shaw, Rupert Betheris.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Dale Woodall only played 12 games. Now, funny story, Michael, I actually played against him up here in Queensland. And another big guy who I thought Dale was a gun, but the other guy who I thought he's never going to be a footballer went to Hawthorn, and his name was Jason Dunstall. So we got the rough end of the pineapple, I suppose. But they're the Dale Woodhall played 12 games, kicked 32 goals.
A bit undersized.
Yes. You call him undersized. I always looked up to him because I'm only 5'5" when I played against him. But and I thought Jason Dunstall was just too big. I don't know if we can say he was fat and overweight, but at the time, but that's I just said it. But yeah, I thought Dale was better, but obviously not. He kicked 32 goals though, so that's a pretty good ratio. I think he kicked 7 in one game.
I think he on the Swans list for a period. I think he was on the Swans list for a little bit. Not sure if he played a game, but anyway, bye to bye. But yeah.
So them all guys.
Lovely. All right, Grubman, what about you?
I reckon like all-time favourite player would have to be Scott Pendlebury because there hasn't been a single game Collingwood's played while I'm alive that he hasn't been in the team for. So not playing, but been in the team for because he got drafted in 2005 and I was born in 2005. So
that's crazy. He's been there your whole life. That is just insane. It's actually funny you bring that up. Sorry to interrupt. I read today that today is 19 years to the day that Scott Pendlebury debuted. today. So that's the 3rd of June. So that's
Well, can I just say quickly before we go back?
Far
I heard a couple of weeks ago, the side we beat 2 weeks ago, I can't remember who it was, but that was the first time since 2009 that Collingwood has won without either side bottom or Pendlebury in the side.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Keep on going, Grubman. Sorry.
Oh, what players they are. I think current favourite player, though, is Bobby Hill. I just think whenever he gets the ball, he's just like a showman. Like, it's just his stuff, like what he does with the ball is just so performative almost. It's like he's like making art with the football rather than playing. Sometimes, like Bobby's either on or he's off. But when he's on, it's just beautiful. And I got a soft spot for him. Obscure player. I don't know how obscure he was. I used to love Dale Thomas. I don't know why.
Doesn't fit the category of obscure, mate.
Mate, no, probably not. But it was heartbreaking when he went to Carlton. But I can't remember why I loved him, but I loved him. And then he went to the dark side. So
all the kids back then loved Daisy. The big blonde hair, the speckies, the runs. He was incredible. Very underrated, Daisy Thomas. Like he's toughness. Like he was as hard at it as anyone I've ever seen play for the Pies. And he doesn't get the credit that he deserves because of what I just said. He was just this skinny blonde guy. Everyone just assumed he was soft, but he wasn't. He was as tough as they came.
Yeah, no, he was awesome until we don't talk about that. So.
Yeah. Rightio, Oscar. It's your turn, mate. Favorite player and an obscure player as well, or a few if you want to name a couple.
My favourites are sort of Swanee and Bucks tied, to be honest. Bucks, when I was a bit younger, obviously was kind of like the star player and just sort of seemed like the heart and soul of the club for a lot of that period, even through some of the downs as well. And I was just always shattered towards the end of his career when he kept doing sort of hamstrings and things. That was always pretty devastating. But yeah, Swanee, I just loved how he kind of just rose up from someone who was just sort of totally unserious for a bit at the start there, and then just progressed into such an incredible player to watch. And, wasn't always seen as like the guy with the most amazing skills, but was just still such an incredible player. I absolutely loved watching him. And then, again, I don't know how obscure these people are, but like Tuck and Lockie are, absolutely loved him. I just like sort of the long, really nice looking kicks. Jimmy Clement, I really liked watching as well as a player. So they kind of stand out as a few probably rungs down as players in general, but just really enjoy watching those two play.
Yeah, no, it doesn't fit obscure either, but
yeah, fair.
No, I love Jimmy Clement and Tarkin Lockyer as well. Huge fan. Yeah. But between the three of you guys, where's all the Nick Dacos love? Come on, guys! Like I know he's a current day player, but you said Pendlebury. There's Nick Dacos. He's number one. I know this isn't about me, but we need to show Nick a bit of love. He doesn't get talked about enough.
No, he doesn't get. I'll give you one, Dermot, an obscure player, and I just want to see if Serg remembers this bloke. Serg, do you remember Chris Dalkin?
Yes,
you do.
Yes, I thought he was all right. I don't. Yeah.
Oh, he was highly skilled for the younger guys. Chris Dalkin played. I think he played probably only 15, 20 games for us in about 83, 84.
Yeah.
And at the club, and keep in mind that Peter Dacos was at the club at the time. Dalkin was known as Mr. Magic at the club because his skills were that high. But I just don't know what happened to him, why he didn't make it. He was there. He like Jack Cale would have been the coach for one of his years and maybe both of his years. And, yeah, I just wanted to see if you remembered him, Chris, if you remember, Serg, if you remembered him with fondness.
Yeah, well, he reminded me a bit of, who's the guy? Kruger. He was a lanky type guy, but very good. I don't know what happened with him. But that was a good pick.
Yeah, no, he was good. Sorry, Dermot, go ahead.
All right. Well, I think we're ready to now get into the agenda. And I want to start this off by saying that I've got my prop here. The lid's still off. There we go.
I warned you about prop, Dermot. You had the one. I've been listening to a couple of Pies pods today, Pies Nation, and the rant, and everyone's talking about the lid off.
Yeah, they've copied me, mate. I was the original. I've lost the lid. It's so far gone, I can't find it. I chucked it away. I've been searching the last couple of days, but still haven't been able to find it. But speaking of Pies Nation, listen to them today, and they're kind of comparing this current day team, the 2025 version of Collingwood, to our premiership team in 23. And I think it was Luke. He described it as a perfected version of 23. And I think they all said that if the two teams were to play each other, 23 v 25, that the 2025 team would win. And to be honest, I 100% agree. I guess to start off with, I just want to get everybody's opinion on, well, I guess are we better than the 2023 team? For me, my reasoning behind it is because it's similar to what the boys on Pies Nation were saying, is the amount of times that we let teams back in it in 23 and we would get over the line in those famous close finishes. That was great. But what we're doing now is we're blowing sides away. Like we blew the Hawks away. We blew the Lions away. I just feel like we're a much more solid outfit and a lot more reliable. So if I'll chuck it at Serg to begin with. What's your opinion?
Well, I can't disagree with the Pies Nation boys, but my caveat, and Michael will understand this, is that you got to win the premiership first, and then then they'll be the better side. At the moment, at the same time, yes, you would say so, but the 23 team won the flag. 25 is still, there's a question mark, even though it's a good question mark.
Yeah.
No, that's fair because I still think the best season I've ever seen us play was 2011, the year after we won the premiership, and
100%.
obviously, yeah. So you're 100% right. But yeah, I've just got a good feeling. What about you, Grubman? How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm just loving this season. At the start, that first game against GWS, I was just distraught. I was like, I feel like we've been hyped up so high, and what's happened. But since then we've just been steamrolling. I think with 2023 though, whilst our scores were like always very close against teams, I feel like we did always have the upper hand. Like it's like we knew when to put it in the fourth gear, like the team's been saying recently. Like you know, we know when to turn it on. We're never truly out of a game. Whereas this year, I do think we're playing better footy at the moment. I just think we're so quick, and once we get our opportunities, we're just so good. And that plug and play kind of technique is just working so well. I mean, every commentator on YouTube and Fox Footy is saying it right now, but anyone can put on our jersey and we're just firing. Like we saw it in that game against Fremantle where we had so many outs, but we're still just playing the system and playing it well. So
absolutely. Anything you want to add, Oscar?
Not too much, but I do think we're looking a bit better this season, probably compared to 2023. I just hope we can obviously sustain it, but I think we've got more options as far as like key forwards go. Definitely when McStay's back available. I think obviously Nick Dacos was great in 2023, but he's added a bit more to his game now. And you know, Darcy Cameron's playing as well as ever, and you know, even the defence, even games like where Darcy Moore's not been available, I think our defence is just looking a bit more dour in general. So yeah, there's just a few, and you know, side bottom's playing as well as he has in ages, and I don't know, there's just a few different factors there. I think this side's looking really, really strong this year. So I'd say it's looking a little bit better. But I do agree with Sergio as well. We've still got to go on and win it. Still a big part of the season to go. And last season at this point, Brisbane hadn't played their best footy yet, and then they went on to kind of win it. So, but yeah, no, we're looking very strong. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, we are, and this has been this most exciting for me anyway. Is I still think that we've got players that are nowhere near their best, and other players that haven't even played yet. And one of those guys is Tom Mitchell, and it's one of the biggest debates at the moment on social media amongst Collingwood supporters. Does Tom Mitchell fit into this team alongside Ned Long? Is there a way they can both play, or does he just have to wait until there's an injury or a rest in? And Michael, we were talking about this, you and I, yesterday, and you came up with a good point that had something to do with Lachie Sullivan, if you want to tell the listeners and create a discussion amongst these guys.
Well, for a number of games this year, you've had Long and Sullivan in the same side. Now, Sullivan isn't dissimilar to a Tom Mitchell. Maybe he's a bit better got a bit more goal nous about him than Mitchell. But when I think back to 23, you had Mitchell and Taylor Adams in the same side for a number of games. But again, Taylor Adams probably got a bit more goal sense than Mitchell. Can Mitchell, can he play second string to along in the same side? Initially, I didn't think so, but then having thought of those examples, maybe he could. So I'd just be interested in what the guys thought about that. So if maybe a Grubman, what do you reckon? Can they partner together, be in the same 23?
Oh, look, I don't know. I think with Tom Mitchell, the question is is he still as motivated as he has before? Two Brownlows. He's won a grand final. He's won best and fairest, and he's got his own very successful Ball Magnets podcast right now. He hasn't played in AFL side in a long time. It's just a question of is he as driven as other players in our best 23 right now? I don't really know. I mean, there's no doubt that he's a great player, but I haven't seen him play in the VFL yet. I don't tend to watch the VFL games, so I'm not sure. I think it could be a question of motivation, though.
Well, Serg might be a good one to answer that because, as we know, he's the VFL man on Pies Nation. How's Mitchell looked in the VFL to you?
He's motivated, 100%. Look, the point you guys made that Michael just mentioned around Sullivan, can they work together? I think so. I always thought that at least Mitchell would be, could give guys like Pendles a rest and side bottom and even Ned Long if needed. But that's a good point. You could have those two guys in the same side. But you had Mitchell with Pendles and those guys in 23. I don't see the difference. And watching him, he's motivated. He's very sharp with his handballs. That hasn't gone astray. And he actually he had quality time this week against Box Hill, who are no slouches, and he won us the game. He and Dimatina performed really well. And there's another guy that should probably get a call up.
Well, I stand corrected.
So with Dimatina, how is he? So just to move away from Tom Mitchell for a second, how is he looking as an inside mid other than that game? And when was the move made? Because obviously Michael and I have talked about a bit on the podcast how we don't get to see the VFL here in Tassie, and Oscar's obviously the same band in Tasmania. So when was the move made from sort of like a wing half back to an inside mid?
I'd love to interview Collingwood and in terms of how they develop their plays, because he was put in some really awkward positions. Look, he started out at the wing and wasn't too bad, but as soon as they moved him into the middle, about four or 5 weeks ago, He's just come on in leaps and bounds. He kicked his first goal in the VFL against Box Hill. He's got a beautiful left foot, and he's very young. So there's heaps of upside to this guy. Is he ready? Well, I don't know what Collingwood does with, where would you put him? They wouldn't put him in the middle, so they'd probably stick him maybe half back or half forward, which means, that's not going to suit him. He's suited for the middle. He's got all the characteristics that a good centre man has, and it's going to be interesting. But yes, he's played most of his games on the wing, but recently been moved in the centre. Mind you, we struggle there, but he's probably since Tom Mitchell has come back, he's only second to Tom Mitchell in terms of our clearances. You got other guys there like there's a young Joshua Brown, he's pretty good too. But it'd be interesting to see what they do with Martina.
Were you surprised that we didn't pick up Josh Brown in the mid-season draft? Because I felt like we were sort of grooming him to be the next Long. The fact that he was playing with us in the game up on the Gold Coast against the Suns and Brisbane in the preseason, and I was a bit surprised that we didn't hear his name called out.
Look, there was a lot of players that I thought would have been taken. So overall, I'm not just talking about Collingwood. There was a lot of guys there that I thought, we'd be missing in after the mid-year draft, but it hasn't come. Yeah, so am I surprised? Look, the guys that they've got, Collingwood obviously knows what they're doing, and that is it? I think it's Noah. Is it Noah Steele?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's Noah House, isn't it? I'm good.
Yeah. Well, Steele is Rowan Steele and Noah House. Yeah.
Yeah.
He played an excellent game. First up, considering he didn't know anyone at the club and the system, he fitted right in. So
Steele's the midfielder, isn't he?
Yeah. Now he played on the wing. He had about 24 or 25 possessions. So I'll let the other guys have a crack. But I thought they did all right. But I was expecting like your Riley Masons to go, not necessarily to us, but I thought he'd be picked up elsewhere.
Yeah, nice. Oscar, do you have anything to add in the Tom Mitchell debate? Does he fit into the team alongside Ned Long? Is he a replacement for maybe a Sullivan?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to see it for like a few weeks before finals and things to see how they go together. I think in general, I'd feel better about a Tom Mitchell being in our final side. I just think, I do really want him there, and as long as he's obviously playing well, but I just sort of feel safer with Tom Mitchell there. I really hope I hope he doesn't affect Long too badly, because I think Long's just been so good for us too, but I really want to see Mitchell come in soon and just see how that goes. And we might have to have one of them playing obviously half forward a little bit and things, but definitely want to see that combo. So
yeah, well, you said it. Like I don't want to see. I agree. I don't want to see this affect Ned Long in any way. Like I love Tom Mitchell, and I'm really open to seeing him in the team, but I would not be taking Ned Long out of that midfield at all. I wouldn't. I do not want to see him start on a half forward. So it's trying to find that right balance. Can Titch add another string to his bow and play half forward? And we'll just have to wait and see.
Can I throw a question to the panel?
Go for it.
Quick one. Elliott's form since McStay's gone down has been off the charts. He's been fantastic. Does the panel think McStay's absence has something to do with that? And what to do with McStay when he comes back, given that? So maybe Oscar, do you want to start off with that?
It's a good question, actually. I don't see those two as being players that should affect each other massively, but I mean, it could just be opening up more space for Elliott, and he's just sort of levelled being sort of that sort of key focus in the forward line, and having a sort of key target out of there has kind of helped him. So no, it's a pretty good point, but hopefully we can see them both in the team for a fair few weeks going into finals just to see, and McStay's obviously back soon now. So it'd be good to see that dynamic, but overall I'd say, I don't know, I don't see the two together. McStay being out has helped Elliott. But it'll be interesting to see actually how Elliott's form goes once McStay's back.
Because I was thinking when McStay played playing further up the field, he was kind of a link man, and his kick forward 50 was elite. He was just putting it on the chest of the lead forward. So I'm thinking, do we play him further up the ground? What do you think, Grubman? What's your thoughts on this topic?
I don't know. I don't really think so, because to be honest, we haven't seen heaps of Dan McStay over the past few years. He's had a lot of injuries, and we've just really seen Jamie Elliott, playing incredibly kind of this season. I mean, he's always been an incredible player, but it just really does feel like he's just taken it to this next level. I mean, 5-6 goal games, it's just incredible. And I guess not having that tall figure on the ground could mean that he's getting more marks and more goals. But at the same time, we know Elliott's an incredible mark, and he's got no trouble getting the ball. So I'm not sure. I think McStay will just elevate the team, but I'm not sure. I'm leaning more towards Elliott's just having an incredible season, to be honest.
It's a tough one. Thanks. You, Serg? You got any thoughts on this one?
Brilliant question. Look, I've always been critical of the Pies forward line when Cox was there as well. A lot of them used to get in each other's way. They haven't been doing it as much. I think they've worked it out. Having McStay away, I believe Membray and Mychek, they are getting some space. And you're right, McStay, I watched him up here at Brisbane, and that was his role. When he played for the Lions, he was the third wheel, against the wing, and beautiful kick in. But he's a good contested mark. So they're just going to have to work it out. Each one of them's going to have their day, and Elliott's just killing it at the moment. So you give him the space.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have, isn't it?
100%.
Can I ask a quick question of the panel? I think we can all agree that Collingwood's making finals, but during finals, what team are you guys most nervous for us to play?
I might take this one first. Geelong just bother me. Because I don't think Geelong are as good as a team, overall team, as the other contenders like the Brisbanes and ourselves and so forth. But their top end talent, their Dangerfield, their Cameron, these guys, Stengel. I think when they win, it's because their top end talent get them over the line. Their top end talent probably a bit scarier, I reckon, to me, than some of the other sides. I'm not sure if there's a lot of substance to that, or it's just how I feel. But Geelong, I suppose, being a Victorian side and more experienced at the MCG than a Brisbane, even though Brisbane have won the premiership there, of course. So Geelong, for me, just scare me a bit.
Well, for me, I'm just looking through the ladder now. Like the Hawks still scare me. I know we just beat them by 50 points, but this is bloody Hawthorn. Like, what was it before then? They'd won 15 of the last 17. But a team that kind of scares me. Gold Coast are giving me sort of GWS from 2019 vibes. Like, we rolled into that prelim final in 2019. Everybody was confident, and they knocked us off in one of the biggest upsets in finals history. And for some reason, a part of me can just see us losing to Gold Coast at the MCG in a preliminary final. It would be horrible, but I can just see it for some reason.
Yep.
Anyone else?
Oscar?
I kind of think if the Bulldogs get up to a decent position, but I don't know. I've always kind of probably rated the Dogs more than a lot of teams in a lot of seasons. Than a lot of people in a lot of seasons. I just think the Dogs just have a lot of kind of top end talent as well. I don't know. And I thought the Dogs actually played quite well against us in round 2. So I almost think it's probably the Bulldogs or Brisbane. I'd say, are the two that would worry me the most.
Yeah. And you, Serge?
Look, I have to agree with all the teams you guys have mentioned. Particularly the Western Bulldogs. I was quite impressed. And it depends who they field. If Sam Darcy's back, he caused us heaps of grief.
Yeah.
But you can't discount the Lions, although we seem to measure up okay with them, whereas we seem to have some trouble with Geelong. So I'm tending to agree with you there, Michael, on that one. And Gold Coast is still an unknown. We'll wait till we play them. And the good thing with the Gold Coast is, we might lose against the Gold Coast up in at the Gold Coast, but they have to play the grand final and finals, I would say, in Melbourne. So I'd be more confident beating them at this stage.
I agree with that too. I'm most nervous for Geelong. I was watching Fireball today, and I heard David King saying that he thinks in whoever wins between Collingwood and Geelong during the finals, he reckons will play Brisbane in the grand final. So,
All up.
sorry.
Are you all up?
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. I don't love.
Yeah, I was listening to that as well. Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Rightio. So, sorry, you go, Daniel.
I was just gonna say I'm far more confident about playing Brisbane than Geelong, to be honest. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I'm never nervous playing Brisbane, even though they're a very good side.
I think that troubled us the most with Brisbane throughout the years is Joe Danaher. He always had a great record on Darcy Moore. So I agree. Without Danaher, I'm nowhere near as nervous as I once was.
Yeah, I feel the same.
Yeah, good call.
I hope that this is coming across, because I'm not sure about you guys, but the picture is freezing for me a lot. It was stuck on Michael's fat head for a while, but
you're looking good, Dermot. You're looking good.
That's good. Well, the audio sounds good, but I'm a bit worried about the whole YouTube thing, but which hopefully it's okay. Okay, so we'll move on. A hot topic that Michael and I discuss quite often, and when I say Michael and I, it's mainly Michael, is Will Hoskin-Elliott. And I rolled out a few stats on the last pod, and I won't go through them again. I read out all his disposals and goals in the last 8 weeks, but I've just done the averages, and in the last 7 games, because I won't include the game where he was sub against the Cats, he's averaged 9 disposals and a goal a game. Now, I like Hoskin-Elliott more than Michael, but in saying that, I probably think that he loses his spot eventually. What are your opinion? I'll start with you, Serge, because you're the only one I can see at the moment. What's your opinion on Hoskin-Elliott?
Well, this is a really hard question, because a couple of my favourite plays are very low possession plays, like he's one, and so is Cox. And both are topical at the moment. Look, I don't disagree with Michael, and there's an argument for both. I'm not sitting on the fence. Would I like to have him? He's more experienced than some of the guys. Who do you replace him with? Would be my question. There's the guys coming through are not as versatile as Will is, but eventually he's going to have to retire. I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah.
Well, I guess what Michael and I were saying in the last pod is we would probably just rather a young guy in the team, like someone like a Will Hayes, for example. I know they're not the exact same type of forward, but you could easily get a 10 disposal, 1 goal game out of Will Hayes, and you're sort of getting games into him. We do have a lot of experience already, so I'm not sure. We're not like a lower team that needs the experience of a Hoskin-Elliott to help the kids. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of our point. What about you, Oscar? Do you have an opinion on Hoskin-Elliott and his place in the team?
Not a strong one, if I'm honest. I think for now I'd probably keep him in the team. I know what you say. We've got a lot of experience, but I mean, we're obviously going for a flag this season. We want the flag this season, so I don't know about playing sort of a kid instead of him just because. I think you need a mix of like outside and inside type players, guys that can kind of run really well up the field and things like that. I just think Hoskin Elliott, at least he provides really good work rate and things like that. So, look, I'm not strong on it either way. If someone else came in and played a really good role for him instead, I'd be stoked. It's not like I love Hoskin Elliott, but for now, I just don't see him as like an obvious omission to the team.
Well, this isn't going the way that you would have liked, Michael. But let's see if old Grubman's on your side. What do you reckon, Daniel?
To some degree, I definitely don't have the same passion of feeling as Michael about Hoskin Elliott, but I do really want to see some of our younger guys getting more games, particularly maybe like a West Coast or a Richmond game, doing a bit of experimenting with those games and never underestimate a team, but West Coast and Richmond. So yeah, I don't always love what he does, but at the same time, I think he plays a role, and I think he has his moments.
Well, Serge, I like to ask. So Daniel mentioned, potentially playing a few kids against the teams like West Coast and Richmond. And as our VFL expert, who are some of the kids that could potentially step in against sides like Richmond later on in the season? Because I think about in 2010, Jared Blair just came from the clouds in about round 16, 17 and ended up becoming a premiership player. Is there anyone at VFL level that you could see potentially doing that? Like I know Michael the other day was asking about Jacob Ryan, who I couldn't answer the question because I don't get to watch it. So if you could give us your thoughts on that.
Good question, Damien. Dermot. Look, this is hard because these are the guys. Like Parker's a solid player, and he's already played and proven himself. I like the look of Hayes. He's already played. So the guys that haven't played, Ryan, obviously Dematia, Steen, Smith. There's probably a couple of others, but Cochrane, West, and obviously the two boys that have come in. So if you exclude Howes and Steele for the time being, it depends what position's open. Everyone's talking about Charlie West, but for my liking, he keeps you 3 goals, but he plays. That's all in 1 or 2 quarters. Then for the rest of he's still developing. He's got no defensive game. I don't know how he would fit into the Collingwood side, but yes, he could go. Yeah, they could give him a go against Richmond or the West Coast. I'd be inclined to test out Ryan. He's had 3 good games of late where he's taken a lot of intercept marking and his run is really good. And I'd want to test him to see if he can, if he's up to it. Dean is another one who would, if it wasn't for his decision making, I could see him already playing in the seniors. But as someone pointed out, is it unfair that they put him? He got most of his games last year when our defence wasn't the best. With our defenders who we have at the moment, would he now be a better player? I would say probably yes. But they're the guys, and you can't discount Cox. He played an awesome game on the weekend. And Jay Cochrane, he's probably still. He hasn't played as well since his concussion. So to summarise, maybe Ryan and Dematia, probably Dematia would be first cab off the rank, outside of guys like Hayes and Parker who have already played.
Yeah, nice. There we go, Michael. You got your answer on Jacob Ryan.
I might jump in now with a question to the panel. I think my last question. Last year, I was screaming out that when it comes to free agency, we have to get a big body in the middle to support Nick Dacos. I think it was screaming out last year with the lack of Degoe around him and so on, and Tom Mitchell. I thought, let's go out and get a big body. And I was thinking about guys like Rao and Petrarca. Now, with Ned Long's rise, I don't think that's the type we need to target. I'm thinking more, okay, we've got Ned Long and Dacos, hopefully for the next 10 years in the middle. Let's capitalise on that and go hell for leather for somebody like a Butters. And I know it might not be possible to get him. I know they're going to ask the earth, but I think if you go all chips in on a Butters and we end up with Butters, Nick Dacos and Ned Long in our midfield for the next 10 years, that's flags to me. I'm thinking let's go all chips in for a Zach Butters if we can. And maybe we can throw to Grubman for that one. What are your thoughts on what player you think we need and if you agree with me for next year?
I think Port Adelaide would be pretty bloody unhappy if we took Butters the year after taking Houston. I do agree though. I think we could build up our midfield a bit stronger. Whether it be a Butters or maybe someone a bit cheaper, easier to get. Not sure, but I do agree with that. I'd like to bulk up our midfield a bit.
Serg, you got any thoughts about what the type of play we need, given that McRae likes going after his free agents? What do you think we need, and what do you think about Butters? My idea.
Brilliant. If you can get him, we've got. Look, you can never get enough midfielders, right? And quality midfielders. Harley Reid, those types, and there's probably some other guys that you get, and you always continually need to build up your midfield. One of the things I have noticed, it's not a big concern at Collingwood at the moment, but should something happen to Darcy and Cox, we don't have any rucks. Steen and Smith, they're not ready. Steen is a good mark and around the ground and a lovely kick. Smith, they're playing him in defence, so we need a combination of people in the midfield across what you just mentioned. Good quality players, runners, but we can't neglect our rucks either because, if, for example, not that I think he will go, but if Darcy Cameron decides to go home, Cox isn't going to be around forever, and the two guys that we've got, aren't, at this point, aren't there.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking the ruck has never really bothered me that much because if you look back in the last 10 premiership ruckmen, take out Max Gawn, all the other guys, Nan Curvis types, and so on, they're just got a journeyman. You can pay them their $400,000 a year, and you got a big body ruckman, and I think that's really all you need. If they can be better, fantastic. Like Darcy Cameron's come on, but. Yeah, the ruck, I think you could always pick up a ruckman. That's my thoughts, but...
I disagree, but we just haven't got them, is what I'm saying.
Yep.
Outside, because, look...
Yeah.
You're spot on with Darcy, right? And Cox has been very serviceable, right? They're not your Gawns, right? And do we need a Gawn? No. But these two young guys aren't there yet.
Yeah, okay. I understand, yeah. You, Oscar?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about what we need?
Yeah, no, for sure. No, I think I'm with you there, Michael. I think Butters is actually probably a perfect type, like just a really skillful kind of silky midfielder. I don't know if we actually need like the really big body in and under midfielder now as such. Because for years I always thought like our keep forward were a bit of an issue and things like that. But we've kind of got Mychek, McStay, Membre and things there. So I actually think our next target should be kind of just a really silky, skillful midfielder like Butters. I actually think he's probably almost the perfect type we should go after now. So I think I'm with you there.
Yeah, very, very. It's going to be very hard to get, though, of course.
Definitely, but never know.
Draft capital to get him, but anyway. But
there is no way we end up with Zach Butters. I'm just saying, there is no way.
Yeah. I was just saying, in the perfect world, dreaming, I'd love to have Butters next to Dacos and Long for the next 10 years. I reckon that would just a couple of flags alone. But anyway.
Oh, can I just go back a little bit? You guys were just touching on the rucks. Short term, what are we going to do for this upcoming King's birthday game? So obviously we went in with the Darcy Cameron Billy Frampton combo for the Hawks game. I don't think we can do that again. Well, I personally don't. I'm not sure what you guys think, but do we bring back Cox despite everything I've been saying the last few weeks about him? Or do we go maybe an Oscar Steen, who Serge mentioned, or potentially a Charlie West? But it doesn't sound like Serge thinks that he is ready. Or maybe Dan McStay is all right to come back. If he is fit to play, would you risk him as our second ruck despite those knees? I know that Michael isn't too keen on that. We'll get the thoughts from Daniel first. What do you reckon, Grubman?
Look, it is Melbourne, but I'm always wary about those milestone games like Anzac Day and King's Birthday. I think teams can just stand up, particularly Melbourne. We never know what's going to happen. I'd honestly rather play it safe and go with a Cox over a Smith or a West. Did you say? Yeah, I'd rather go with a Cox. If we were playing Melbourne and it wasn't King's Birthday, I'd say maybe try a West or a Smith or maybe even a McStay. But given that King's Birthday, I'll go with Cox.
What about you, Oscar?
Yeah, if we do get someone in especially to kind of help tackle Gawn, I'd go Cox. I mean, I feel like Gawn kind of dominates most weeks, and it doesn't always kind of equal Melbourne as sort of dominating. So whether or not we need to kind of change up too much because we're up against Gawn, but I do get that it'd be handy to have Cameron kind of with a little bit more backup than normal against such a high caliber ruck. But yeah, I'd either go Cox or not even sort of worry too much about getting that extra big in to tackle Gawn and just sort of back the rest of our system to get it done.
Serge, am I crazy for calling out the Charlie West to be our second ruck? Like, you've obviously watched him more than all of us. Can he do it? Because I know for a fact that he did a little bit of ruck work in the juniors.
Yeah, this isn't the juniors, Dermot.
Fair.
Look, he's a talent. I'm not happy. And this sounds harsh. He still has some way to go in terms of he doesn't chase. If the ball, and in the ruck, I couldn't see him lasting. In any case, I don't know who said this, but why would you waste a guy like McStay or even West, potential Rolls Royces for and try and damage them in the ruck? I think Michael's spot on. I'd bring if you're gonna want two ruckmen, Cox plays really well against Gawn. Yes, Cox is out of form. He's marking. He had a good game in the reserves, but his marking and goal kicking has dropped off severely. Having said that, he gets the rough end of the pineapple from the umpires. He gets dragged, pushed, and he gets nothing. So I'd have, if you're going to go for two ruckman, I'd go Cox. West just isn't ready.
Well, believe it or not, I'm actually in the play Mason Cox camp for this week. Just for this week, I just think we need I slightly disagree with Oscar. I think we definitely should be going in with two established ruckmen against Max. Max is their point of difference, and the only way I can see Melbourne beating us is if he has a big game. But long term, so you say that, Serge, that you don't want to see McStay in the ruck, and Michael said a similar thing throughout the last few podcasts. But long term, you're going to have McStay, Membry, and Mychek all in the team. So you won't be able to have a Mason Cox or another ruckman in there. Then you would obviously be too tall. So what would you say we do if we can't put McStay in there? Would it be just to chop out with someone like a Ned Long that we saw a little bit last week?
Yeah, look, a ruckman's a ruckman. I know it's not a great position, but I just think McStay isn't an option because of his knees. Why risk him? We've paid good money to get him. Maybe a Frampton, but you don't want to disrupt the back line with putting Billy there. And you wouldn't put more. There's another Rolls Royce you wouldn't want to wreck. Yeah, I'd probably go Long and maybe Frampton if that's the case. Keep McStay as, and maybe he could just do the forward line. Divide the ground. Yeah.
Tim Membry, could he? Because he's done a little bit the last couple of
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah. You could rotate them. Even who else is there? I saw. Didn't my kid go up in the ruck?
Possibly. Yeah.
You divide the ground. You can definitely get past it. And look, Steen, he's not a bad mark and kick. He took a nice specky in the reserves, so he's got a good pair of hands. I could, if he didn't make it as a ruckman, you'd also almost try and train him up as a key forward. He's got a lovely pair of hands. He's a great kick, and he could ruck. He could replace McStay, maybe. I don't know. In the future, not now.
Yeah. I saw that specky on Twitter. They had it up against comparing it to Michael Roach's.
Oh no, Michael Roach has killed him. Come on.
That was the comparison.
That was silly.
They're next to each other, yeah. But well, my thoughts are, Gawn, as great as he is, has never dominated Collingwood. Played well, but never dominated because we've always had a Grundy Cameron or a Cameron Cox against him.
Yeah,
and I'd bring Cox back for this game. Yeah.
Well, Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just going to jump in real quick. At the moment, what do you guys think is the biggest hole in our game that's going to stop us from potentially winning a grand final?
Good question. For me, it's kind of been alleviated over the last month. I've always wanted a Presti type fullback, just a lockdown fullback, and I thought that's what we're lacking. But Billy Frampton, his last 6 weeks has been as good as any key defender in the league. So my biggest worry looks like it might have been alleviated. I'm not sure if he can do this the whole year, but yeah, that was it for me.
Yeah, well, for me, I'm not. I know this might sound a little bit cocky. I think we've almost got the perfect lineup. Like, our key forwards are strong. Our key defenders are now good, as Michael just said. Our defense in general is just as strong as you get. Our small forwards, great. We've got an A-grade ruckman, lots of depth in the midfield, inside and out. I honestly don't see a weakness. So for me, I guess the biggest worry is what we just talked about, the backup ruck. Because if Darcy Cameron could do 90% of ruck work, then I wouldn't have this worry. But he's still only hovering around a 75 to 80% time on ground. So obviously he doesn't quite have the fitness to get up to those 90% levels that you see the guys like Max Gordon and Cherry and the like doing. So yeah, for me, the second ruck is a bit of a worry still, because to a certain degree, I do agree with Michael and Serg. In a perfect world, I wouldn't want Dan McStay there. I just don't really see a lot of other options. I know we spoke about Long and Membry, but that's just, I don't know, it just worries me a bit. But yeah, so for me, it's honestly just the second ruck, and I don't think it's a huge issue either.
How about you, Oscar?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was hoping, I think we're pretty well set across the board. For me, it's really just like, I just hope our sort of older legs can, make it through the whole way, including the finals. But that's why I'd love to sort of keep piling some wins on the board now, and maybe just so we have that leeway to keep resting a few players, just like one or two players each week heading up to the finals, preferably. Like, I'm not really into like a mass rest towards the end of the home and away season, especially with like the week off in between things now. But just being able to rest a player here and there. But as far as like positional holes in the team, I honestly think we're actually pretty well set.
You, Serg, what do you reckon?
I agree. My only issue that I see, that I scratch my head at games is we're still losing centre clearances.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And I don't know why, because our midfield's, probably the best that we've had for a while. And to your point earlier, is it because we don't have the Mitchell there? Long's doing a great job, don't get me wrong, but when he doesn't attend, we seem to be a bit vulnerable. I don't know why, but I'd like to see that sort of fixed up. Other than that, the ruck issue will sort itself out, but and the maturity of our players, I think the club's managing really well. But that centre clearance stuff does my head in. I don't know what they're doing there.
Well, we were talking about it on the pod last week or the week before. Yeah, I can't understand it either because we consistently lost it over the last month. But what's the answer to your question, Grub?
Oh, for me, yeah, I agree with Oscar. I just hope we can, keep our players fit and healthy, as many as possible. Sometimes I really worry about our scoring accuracy. I mean, in that North Melbourne game, particularly in that third quarter, we were just getting behind after behind, and I was just sitting there like going, "Oh my God!" I worry about that sometimes. And obviously, we had that preseason game against Richmond, I think it was, and we didn't score a single behind for the first 3 quarters. And I was like, "Oh my God, is this Collingwood I'm watching right now?" But yes, sometimes when we're just scoring behind after behind, it scares me a little bit.
I remember when I was watching that preseason match, I thought they're wasting good kicking on a preseason game. Yeah. Sorry, back to
All right, so we'll wrap this up very soon. We've been going for a bit over an hour, but there's a couple more things that I just want to touch on. And one of those things is, I guess, what are you most looking forward to for the remainder of the season? Like, how do you think we can improve? Like, obviously, we're the best team in it. We're 10-2, top of the ladder, but we can get better. And for me, I look at these two guys as being September wildcards, and that is Jordan De Goey, who's obviously, we need to get his body right, and he's just going to be a great luxury up forward and pinch it in the midfield. But the other one is Dan Houston. I just think that we haven't seen the best of Dan Houston yet. And I reckon he is going to explode in the second half of the year. I've learned my lessons from going early last year on Lockie Schultz and bagging him. I'm not going to do that with Houston. I'm just looking forward to it because he's been a quality player for a long time. We know that. It'll click. He's just getting used to the new system. He's been suspended a couple of times. That's my opinion. What are your guys' opinion on, I guess, Houston, De Goey, and potentially other sort of things that we can look forward to for the remainder of the year? I'll start with Oscar.
Definitely De Goey, I think, is going to be a huge one because we just know what he can do in September. So getting De Goey, just slowly ramping him up, being cautious, but hopefully getting him to close to 100% by September is going to be huge. I think Houston has generally looked a little bit better the last couple of weeks, but I agree we could get a lot more out of him as well. Obviously our forward line generally has been really good lately, and our goal efficiency per inside 50 has been amazing and all of that sort of stuff lately. But I still think like Membre and Mychek and players like that can actually still go to another level because obviously Elliott's been carrying that a bit lately, but definitely those two I think could just that dynamic between those two plus McStay when he comes back. If we can just get that little bit more out of all of those key position players, as well as Elliott still contributing, that could make a really sort of fearsome forward line. They're kind of my key points, I reckon, there.
What about you, Grubman? What do you got for us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just trusting the system with Houston. When he was at Port Adelaide, he was such an incredible player. I mean, last week's game was probably his best so far, but it wasn't A plus plus. It wasn't like, all Australian Dan Houston that we've seen at Port Adelaide. I think he is getting better. I really hope he really rises up in the later half of the season. I'm also really hoping that Schultz is back and firing because I think he's just such a team player, and I think he's really earned it. I like the relationships he has with all the boys off field. I think he's just incredible off field. He's ready to put his body on the line, like the way he just jumps in for tackles and such. So I really hope he's ready for finals. And De Goey, obviously, I worry about a final series without De Goey. We all know what he can do. So yeah, that's my thoughts. I think just real quick, even if you want to answer this, Serge, out of memory, Houston and Perryman, who have you been most impressed
Good
by?
question. I've been impressed with all three, but I think Perryman and has been the best of the three. Then probably Membre. And look, there's such huge upside with Houston that I'm not that worried. And he's probably taking more time to settle in that back line than we would probably like, but I think he'll be fine. So yeah, that's they've all played well, but the pick so far is Perriman for me.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, as you guys probably know, Michael and I have spoken about Perryman a lot, and where the hell is his best position? We still don't know. We haven't seen him play midfield as much as we probably thought we would have by this stage of the year. He's just a rock down in the back line. What do you reckon, Serge? Where do you think his best football is going to be played?
I'd like to see him. Look, and it depends who's available, but I'd like to see him actually play in the middle. Just to let's see how that goes. And look, to answer the question before, we've got so much upside in the second half. Look, Dan Houston isn't playing the best, but he's doing what he has to do, right? But you got to go, as you said. I don't think Hill is playing as well as he could, right? So there's heaps of upside there. This is probably sacrilege because I loved his dad. But Nick Dacos is playing okay.
Serge,
But I don't think he's
just
playing.
hurt me.
No, he's a gun. Don't get me wrong, but I'm seeing a lot of things that I didn't see with Dacos last year since he started. Where he's throwing his hands up, arguing with the umpire. He needs to go back to what he does best, and I'm not seeing him run as much as he has been. Now, the last 2 games he's been better, but he's going to have to learn to get tagged, right? Because he's going to get tagged more and more. And you still got McStay to come back. Schultz has to come back. And I'd like to see McCreary continue his work in the middle. I thought he's too bad there.
Yeah, no, we've all loved.
Sorry about Dacos.
Look, I'll forgive you. Don't let it happen again. But yeah, you and Grubman both touched on Lockie Schultz, and that's devastating. The news was broken probably about an hour before we jumped on the record that it's probably going to be 5 to 6 weeks. I haven't actually read the in-depth injury report, but I'm assuming they're just going to take their time with him to get him right. And I've gone from being probably his biggest doubter to just loving him. He's literally one of my favorites now. You just gotta admire the way he goes about it, and it's just devastating that he's in this kind of form, and he just keeps on having setback after setback, 2 hammies and that concussion. It's just he just looked devastated on the bench. So hopefully he gets himself right, and he impacts in September. But I guess we were just talking about some of the young guys before in the VFL. Is this an opportunity for a Will Hayes to now have a big block in the seniors? Do you reckon he's the obvious replacement, Serge?
Yeah, 100%. I was quite impressed with his first game, and against quality opposition. Yeah, I thought he played really well. He was unlucky not to kick a goal, but I think I'd give him another crack just to see how he goes. He's very he kicked 3 between him and Cox. They kicked 6 goals each. Sorry, 6 goals between them.
Yeah. All right, so before we wrap this up, I'll give you guys a chance to. Have you got anything in your notes that you wanted to bring up on this podcast? Anything at all?
Can I go first?
Go for it.
Lipinski.
Go on.
You're talking Cox. You're talking Houston, I don't rate Lipinski.
You don't. You do or you don't? Sorry.
I don't.
Oh, okay.
He's yeah, and you're bagging Will Hoskin Elliott. I don't think Lipinski is that. He's okay, but he's not that flash. What do we do with him now? We don't have to worry. He's been concussed.
That's one way to get rid of them.
Yeah, which I thought wasn't reportable, by the way. I thought it was but
It needed to be.
yeah. So, how do you guys see his game?
Well, if I can take this one, I disagree with you in that I think Lipinski is a very good player when the side's playing well. So he's an outside player, has to be fed the ball, but he's used to the ball going inside forward 50. As we saw on the weekend, he hit up three leading players. So I think when the side's playing well, he really caps us off nicely. But when we're struggling, you're right, he doesn't bring anything to the table. So he really relies on the guys playing well on the inside to get it out to him. That's my thoughts. Oscar?
On Lipinski.
Yeah.
I mean, I've sort of always quite I like his skill. I like his run. But I do remember at times last year just questioning Lipinski a bit, and I think you're right there, Michael. I think just when the club's not going so well as a whole, Lipinski can just kind of just because he's an outside player, he needs the help of teammates. He's not going to get in there himself. At the moment, I think he's looking perfectly fine, and if the team continues to be really strong as a whole, I think Lipper could be quite important for us. So I'd prefer him over Hoskin Elliott personally.
Grub?
Yeah, I'd prefer him over Hoskin Elliott as well. I think sometimes Lipinski just like fumbles the ball just at the wrong moments and gets a bit of spotlight there. Though I think he has some great moments, but yeah, I think he can fumble the ball at just the wrong moment, right when it counts sometimes. So
Bit of pressure, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe younger guy, maybe he's growing into it. I don't know. I do like him on the whole, but yeah, I can see where you're coming from, Serg.
I mean, I think he's too good looking to be a footballer.
That's why I didn't make it, Serg.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that, but I'm old school. I like it. I like you got to tackle, you got to hit hard, and he doesn't. Yeah, look, he's a pretty footballer, but I don't. Yeah, I'm not a fan of pretty footballers.
Yeah. Were you one of the umpires who didn't give Jeff Rains a vote in 1980?
I love Jeff Rains. He was the best looking, but he used to go in and tackle.
No, he did, but he was one of the favourites for the younger guys there.
Yeah.
But in 1980, Jeff Rains was one of the favourites for the Brownlow. Didn't poll a vote for the entire year, and I think he won the best and fairest for Richmond, who won the premiership. So
that's right. Yeah, no, 100% agree. Yep.
Yeah, that was bizarre. But Dermot, what do you think of Lipinski? Oh, I think I know what you think, but
I think everybody knows what I think. I'm just when it comes to Lipinski, I change my mind every week. Yes, I'd rather him over Hoskin Elliott. He just backs out of the contest a little bit too often for my liking, but he is an outside player. I think I said a couple of podcasts ago, Anthony from Pies Footy, he posted a video of him, I guess, just pulling out of the contest one too many times. And for me, he's just borderline. I think I've said over and over again, he's anywhere between our 20th to our 25th best player. I know he gets picked every single week, but that's just how I see it. It'll be interesting once everybody's back come finals. I think I said in the last podcast, is it Ed Allen and Pat Lipinski fighting for that last spot? Serge, would you rather continue with an Ed Allen over a Lipinski?
Well, Ed Allen isn't as good looking, but at least he tackles. And look, you can't excuse. I hear what you guys are saying in terms of outside play, inside play, right? But that's going in and getting the ball. If you've got an opposition player coming, you got to tackle him, and you can't. This is what does my head in with Lipinski. Whereas Ed Allen, yeah, he's a much better tackler. I prefer Ed Allen, but I don't discount Lipinski in terms of what he brings to the side. But to your point, Michael, that's when the pies are going, everything's going well.
Yeah, I can see that, and I always know whenever Lipinski shirts an issue, I'll be waiting for a text from my good mate George because I know it's coming through. I've seen so he's of the same mind as you are with Lipinski. So yeah.
Have you got? Oh, sorry, go on, Serge.
Oh,
No,
I
right.
think Ed Allen's quite a good-looking bloke, personally, Serge. But no, I'd probably prefer Ed Allen as well. He really interests me, like a newer player, younger. I find him very exciting. So
Yeah.
He's got rugged good looks.
I agree. I agree. A bit like Michael.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Have you got anything else in your notes, Serge? Anything else you want to mention?
No, we've done the Cox thing to death. They were the. What do you think of the development? How are you guys seeing the development of the Collingwood players? I know you don't see the VFL, but you obviously and when you're winning, you don't get as many opportunities. But
So you're
the
talking
guys have had their opportunities. Are you seeing a pattern that that they can make it, or they're not up to it? I was surprised that Hayes got the call up. I would have had DiMatteo up there before him, but he did okay.
Does either Daniel or Oscar want to answer that one?
I just going off that, I thought West would get a call up before Hayes, just because I'd been hearing so much more about West from the VFL than Hayes. But no, I was glad to see him get a game.
Oscar?
Yeah.
On development. Yeah, look, it is hard because we're obviously gunning for a flag. We've got a lot of experience and things like that. But I actually think for the few younger guys currently getting some games like Allen and so on, it could actually really help their development that they're playing alongside such a talented team with some older, really well-established names. So yeah, like Allen's coming along nicely. If Hayes can now get some games with Schultz out, I think that could really fast track their development a bit as well. Because obviously in the next few years we're going to have some guys retiring. So I just hope in the next sort of year or two we can sort of go for a flag. That's obviously the main aim, but just be able to develop a bit of young talent before guys like Pendles and Sidey and things kind of leave the team. Hopefully we can get that balance a little bit there. But no, I mean, development's coming along pretty well with the young guys, and hopefully we can rotate a few in the back half of this season as well.
I think
Can I just ask one more question? Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Oh, no, you go, and then I'll ask it.
I was just going to say, I think the key is that we just need to give these young guys more than 1 week in the seniors. So someone like Ed Allen, he was in 1 week, out the next, then the sub, and I don't think it did him any favors. Now he's had 4 games in a row without the sub vest, bed subbed on or off. You've now seen the last 2 weeks, he's now gone out, back-to-back 20 disposal games, rising star nomination. His first 2 games weren't impressive at all, though. He could have easily been dropped after that second one, but we stuck with him, and I think that's gone a long way to his development. So I would like to see us do that a little bit more often with guys like a Will Parker, a Will Hayes. They were dropped after 1 game. And I know it's difficult because we've got such a great list. And, the last game we had, 5 or 6 senior players come back. So it was always going to be hard for them to hold their spot. But if we can find a way, and this goes back to the discussion on Will Hoskin-Elliott and to a lesser degree, Pat Lipinski as well, maybe these guys can get a couple more games back-to-back over some of the more experienced fringe guys like an Hoskin-Elliott and Lipinski. I think that would help their development a lot. But anyway, what were you going to say, Serge? Sorry about that.
Sorry, I just had a question for the panel. And That was well summed up, Dermot. I totally agree. You look at what they did with Long and how he's come up now once he's got consecutive games. Amazing. My question for the panel, and this will be my last one, is what do you think of Collingwood's strategy of not bottoming out?
Yeah, sorry.
You know what I mean, in terms of going to the draft
Yeah,
and development, as opposed to you talk about Butters is trying to buy and maintain your team as per Geelong.
yeah. If I could take this one, you've taken the words out of my mouth, Serge, because that was one of my questions, and I've kind of posed it on a pod a couple of times. So you look at the Swans and you look at Geelong, their method of not bottoming out, and Geelong hasn't really been back to the draft in a big way since the Ablets and all these guys came through in about 2004. They've just been topping up since then. So they won those three flags 07, 09 and 11 on the back of those drafts. But since then, they haven't been back to the draft. Yeah, they've been competitive all the time and they're knocking on the door, but they've won one flag. And Sydney, similar. So I don't really know the answer, whether it's best to just top up and always be in the race or just bite the bullet and go back to the draft. That's one thing Dermot and I have discussed on the pod a few times. And I don't really know the answer, to be honest, because when Geelong and Sydney, they've won one flag each. And, Sydney one flag since 2012, was it? And Geelong one flag since 2011. They were in the 2020 grand final, but they've won one flag since 2011 using this method. So I don't know what that tells you. So
Well, the fact is they've both won a flag, and premierships are hard to win. You could look on the other end of it and see teams like North Melbourne that have been rebuilding for how many years and have got to nowhere. I personally love it. I love that we're going to be topping up. As long as we can nail a few kids later in the draft, like Geelong have done with Ollie Dempsey and later picks like that. Oscar and I have a mate that's a Sydney supporter, and he's always said, I've known him for years, he's always said that he loves being a Sydney fan because he knows every year he goes into the season knowing that they're a chance, and obviously maybe not this year, but most of the time that has been the case. Just knowing that your team is a chance to compete, that's exciting. I'll let the rest of the boys answer.
Yeah, honestly, I think topping up, if you do it smartly, can definitely be the way to go. Because I just think, drafts can be pretty hit and miss as well. And, you can take a big punt by sort of trying to build up a whole lot of good draft picks and so on. But I mean, obviously Richmond won all those flags and now they're, they just had all those first round picks, and you feel like potentially they're doing it pretty well too.
Yeah.
It'll be very, very interesting to see how quickly sort of Richmond develop now. But I must admit, it's kind of good going into a season knowing that your team's a good chance of getting like 12, 13 plus wins and being able to compete. And I think free agency is such a big part of the game these days. So I kind of think topping up is the way to go, just because there's no guarantee if you go down the ladder like North Melbourne, try and get themselves back up there with all these high picks, and the mix just doesn't sort of work together. And to be honest, some of that probably is poor drafting. They've obviously gone midfield heavy a lot and things like that. So, I sort of like the topping up system.
how about you?
Yeah, I agree. I really like the topping up system because, like, whilst Geelong have only won one grand final in the last 10 years, they're always a chance and they're always like a threat, and they've been consistently scary since choosing this kind of top up method. And same as Sydney, like while Sydney have also only won one flag in the last 2012 was their last one, but they've still been in four. I'm looking at it now. 4 grand finals since 2012. So they're still ferocious and a threat. I like the idea of the Pies, still being a threat in a few years' time, even after winning the granny this year.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully. Touch wood.
How about Serg? What's the answer to your question, do you think?
Oh, look, I haven't got an opinion. The only thing and you all made good arguments. You're never going to get a dynasty popping up, all right? But then you don't go through the pain that your Richmonds and your Hawthorns did, more so Richmond than Hawthorn, and even Brisbane to some extent when they won their three-peat, although they got a fair push up by the VFL, AFL back in the day. But still, a lot of their players were young guys that they got, through some draft picks. So it's just, I thought I'd just throw it up. It's an interesting discussion, and I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. But yeah, before I pass away, I'd like to see Collingwood win back to back just once. I fear that 2011 and 2010 was their best time. So anyway.
Well, a lot of people have come and gone since we've last done it, Serge, so you won't be the only one.
Yeah, that's right.
35, 36. Yeah, that was the last time. Yeah.
All right, Oscar and Grubman, is there anything else that you guys want to talk about before we wrap this up?
No, I think I'm good.
You're good? What about you, Daniel?
Look, I've got two questions, one for the panel and then one for Michael.
Ooh.
Starting with the panel. Look, what player have you guys been the most surprised by so far this season?
Can I go first and just take the easy answer and say Ned Long?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, I'll go next, and I'll give the same answer because I kind of, this time last year I was describing Ned Long as a depth player. That he was going to help us out if there was a lot of injuries and so forth. Good depth player. So yeah, he's beyond my wildest dreams.
Nah, you got to pick someone else, Michael. You can't steal my answer.
It was a question without notice, so I can't even think of anybody else. So no, I'm stealing it. No.
Serge?
Well, I wasn't surprised about Ned Long watching him in the reserves.
Yeah.
I lie, I'm taking liberties there. Look, Frampton.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yep. And on the downside, I'm shocked at the seasons that Coxie and probably, I don't think we've seen the best of Hill yet. So those three have got me.
I love Hill, but yeah, I agree. I kept seeing social media stuff saying, "Oh, Bobby Hill's best season approaching," but unfortunately we haven't seen it. But I still got to say, sometimes he just does things that are just so impressive, like that mark in the game against the Hawks, and then that goal he scored a few weeks ago where he just kind of like dribbled it along the ground and it just slotted through the goal. I feel like he just sometimes does stuff that's just like, holy, kind of blows you away. I think I've been quite surprised at Billy Frampton. I'm really, really happy with how he's going. I mean, I remember seeing TikToks just last year going, "Oh, Billy Frampton's the worst AFL player in the league," which is wrong, but people aren't saying that anymore, that's for sure. And of course Long, I feel like he's just, I mean, for me, not watching the VFL, I feel like he's just come from nowhere. I feel like he had this really good game and I was like, oh, he's had a good game, and then it's just consistently better and better. And then that North Melbourne game, he was just incredible. So
he's got a very basic game there. Like, not a lot can go wrong with it.
He's just very big.
Yeah, he can't be taken to ground in a tackle. He gets his arms free. He feeds it out to the Dacosses and these guys. So it's a very simple role he plays, and there's, as I said, not a lot can go wrong with it, I don't think.
But he does it so well, Michael, doesn't he?
Oh, he does, doesn't he? Yeah, he's fantastic. Yeah.
Oscar, do you have a name that you want to throw up to that question?
I've been put on the spot a bit here. I'd probably still side bottom.
Yeah,
I was
literally going to say him if you didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I thought he could be serviceable for sure this year, but I mean, he's been unbelievable, really, honestly, in a lot of games. So Sidey would be my one.
Isn't it crazy? I think I've mentioned a couple of times on the podcast. I've just never seen a player in their mid-30s go from an outside player, who's a wingman mainly throughout his whole career, and turn into an inside mid. Because normally it's the other way around. You look at guys like, Travis Boak comes to mind. He's someone that's been inside mid his whole career, then goes to a wing. Callum Ward, another one, inside mid, more on a wing. It doesn't normally work the other way around. And I just did not see this coming from Sidebottom. A role change this late in his career and then become one of our best mids. It's just insane.
Yeah.
That's a great answer, Oscar. That's there.
Yeah, no, he's been really good. Yeah.
Are you guys saying that Buckley played him out of position?
Well, he may have. He may have, yeah.
We won't talk about Bucks. They were hard days, weren't they? 2020, 21, 21.
2018 was fun, though.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah. Anyway, the Grubman's got a question for me.
Oh, Grubman, Michael, one-on-one. What have you got for him?
Grubman, that I don't perform well under pressure, so go easy.
Is it a who am I?
No, it's not a who am I. It's something that's been catching my eye ever since you started the YouTube side of things. And look, Michael, do you have a skincare routine? Because you're glowing, mate. I need to be doing what you're doing, mate.
Paint your walls white. That's all I've got to say. Paint your walls white and get as much sun in as you can. Right. Yeah, but look, I appreciate you. Durban never says anything nice about me, Grubman. Why can't you be more like Grubman?
Well, it's actually funny because I said off air in our last episode. At one point, I was sitting next to Michael, and I just found myself staring at his arm, and I just said to him, "Why do you have so many weird little white patches all over your arm?"
A quick question for Serg, and this is a question out of left field, and the other guys won't know this bloke. This is one of the biggest mysteries in Collingwood since I've been watching Collingwood. Do you recall a guy back in the mid-'80s called Robert Handley? Do you remember him as...
you're pushing it. Vaguely. Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah. Robert Handley, he had this... What I recall as being a breakout season in 1986. It might have only been his second year. He was a running wingman. He'd run and carry deep, quick kicks into the forward line. He looked like he could have been anything. The next year, he was gone, and the media back then isn't what it is today, so it wasn't as, it wasn't as widespread. He was just gone from the club, and there was never really an explanation. I've Googled him. I can't. So if there's anybody out there who recalls Robert Handley, let me know. Get in contact however you like. Tell me what happened to the guy, because this guy, as I said, he looked like he was going to be the next big thing, and then he was just gone from the club. But there you go.
It wouldn't be the first one, though. There's been a lot of guys that had great seasons. Remember McGough?
Oh, yeah, Mark McGough.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, he
wins an Anzac Day medal, and that's it.
Should he have played? I still believe grand final day, that day weather-wise was built for him. And I think
was that 2002?
Yeah, 2002. Yep. Sorry, I've just got a low battery. My battery's about to give out.
Well, that's...
yeah, so there you go. So if anybody is Robert Handley, drop us a line.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much to Serg, Grubman, and Oscar. You guys have been amazing. That's actually gone a lot better than I was expecting. Obviously, when you don't know who you're getting on, you can't help but be a little bit nervous. But you three have been amazing. I'm sure the listeners have loved every moment of it. So yeah, really appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Can I do a quick shout out?
Yeah, go on, Grubman. It's not about your wallet, is it? Are you trying to get that back?
I am. Bull, give me back my wallet, but that wasn't it. Shout out to Boone, shout out to Breckler, shout out to Bull. If anyone needs their driveway pressure washed in Melbourne, hit me up. 0432 874 617.
Well done.
Give us And give us the number again.
0432 874 617.
Right. If I was in Melbourne, I'd be ringing it, but maybe Hobart's.
That's a very interesting way to end the pod. They're probably going to get a lot of prank calls now.
That's all right. I like them. I do a lot of prank calls myself back in the day, so I'd appreciate receiving some.
All right, boys. All right. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you want to follow our socials, you can find us on X at Into the Woods Pod and on Instagram at Into the Woods Pod 10. Thanks for listening. We look forward to doing it again next week. See ya.